So we have been talking about, like, starting from chapter 3 and chapter 5, I think chapter 4 also, like primary key, foreign key, right? Let's say that here in the drop table, where is my drop table? Alter. Okay. Yeah, here there was example, right? Here, right? This is a product type table, this is a product table. So in the product, instead of me repeating this is drinks, this is snacks, let's say I have 1,000 products, so I need to, if I don't use this foreign key here, I have to manually type saying snacks 500 times, drinks 200 times, so you'll be repeating data, and then if you have to change the spelling of drinks to drink, you have to update all 500 rows. So instead of that, we use a foreign key. I just say two. Today it might be drink, tomorrow it might be drinks. You can say, cool drinks, or you can keep on changing this. You don't have to change the 1,000 rows in the product, because it just refers back to this number, and this number has a value that can be changed anytime, right? And apart from that, let's say this is like 100 characters, so you'll be using 100 characters for each row, repeated data, right? So instead of that, I'm just having a single numeric digit, or 2 digits or 3 digits, so that I save space on the table also, right? There is other concept called data integrity. That is the main reason why we use foreign key. So now, as a freshers, it always it's quite common that people get confused between primary key and foreign key. It's so that's why so far I haven't explained in detail what a primary key and foreign key. So now I want to take a shot and see how much you can understand of this concept. Okay, so the primary key, I think it's very we have used it in every table that I have showed. I have used it, primary key, like this sequence symbol, right? See, primary key, you can also define it on like any varchar or a string. That is possible, but 99% of the times when you implement tables in real world, the primary key is always defined on the numeric, the incremental value. There are tables in your assignment where we don't have an auto increment, but we have a primary key on 2 columns. Yes, you have that in your assignment, so you'll get exposed to such primary keys there. But for now, let's think that primary key is like like a number, and it keeps on increasing. And this again, 1, 2, 3, there can be space, and it can, the next number can be 5, 6. You will see that whenever, if you delete a data, right, it will be 4 next, and you try to insert something, you get error on that row, that integer value is missed out. The next row will take the again 4, it won't be 5, it won't be 4, because even though 4 is not inserted because of error, that number is gone, the sequence number is gone. So there are a lot of things like that. So bottom line, primary key is the value that is required to identify a row. Let's say I want to say Pepsi here, instead of saying Pepsi, I'll say product ID 2, right? 2 means Pepsi, and it has 100 columns. What is the unit price, what is the sale price, profit margin, where it came from, all, what is the current stock. I'm not going to say repeat all that. I'll just say that product ID 2 means it will give all the information from it. It's like, in a class, you have students, right? Instead of names, we were assigned roll numbers or student IDs. So our marks, everything were given against the student IDs rather than the name, So because if there are 2 students with the same name, then it's like a mix match, right? So that's why the student IDs are unique. So that means primary key is used to uniquely identify a row in a table, to point, if I want to point out with my finger, okay, Pepsi or Snickers or Cheetos, so when you use the primary key, it will point you out to Snickers. If you say primary key 3, it will point out to this row has maybe 10 columns, 20 columns. So primary key is like, the value used to uniquely identify. Again, it has to be always not null, it has to be unique, okay? And then it can be defined on strings or numbers, but let's say that numbers. There are times where you have to define a primary key on the date also, there are instances like that, okay? So for now, let's see that, okay, we are going to use it on number. And what else do we have here? Okay, so here this is a simple example, right? Integer primary key. The moment you say primary key, it cannot be not null, okay, right? So here this is the definition and this is the definition of students. Okay, so let's go to this primary key first. So I'm saying class ID is my primary key, and there's this class name is like math class, science class, So instead of saying science class, I can say class ID 102. That means that refers to this. So this cannot be duplicated. This is primary key. Now we are getting into foreign key. Okay, it's actually very simple. When you have logic, your own logic to differentiate between a primary key and foreign key. Primary key is on every table to find a row. That is thumb rule, right? But there are, see, this table, it doesn't have a foreign key. The top table, the class table, doesn't have foreign key. So but every table has a primary key. The second table, students. Okay, this rule number is a primary key. I did not highlight for a reason, so that you might get confused. And the student name is Alice. So what class does it belongs to? He is belong to a math class or a science class, right? So rather than me repeating math and science for 1,000 students, I just create a separate table for repeated values and use that primary key here. So when you use a primary key from a other table or foreign table, that is called foreign key. Okay. So going to a foreign country means other country, other than your native country, right? So you can remember that way. Foreign means this is a primary key in some other table. So that's what is a foreign key. Okay, so there's an easier way to remember a foreign key, and this is how you define a foreign key. Foreign key, the name and references to this table here, classes table, class ID. This is the column name in this table, and what does it refer to? You need to say that it refers to this parent table. This is the parent table, and this that means you have to refer it back to the primary key column in some XYZ table, right? In other ways, people also call it this is parent table. They call it this is child table. That's also other notation people use. So don't get confused. Primary and parent always stay together. So child table is, if you have, see again, this table is parent to itself as student, but it is child to the class table, right? So that's how. Now let's look at other examples, primary key and foreign key. So this is a customer ID, so order ID. I am trying to generate orders, right? Here John Doe, this is order day, this is a primary key. Now let's say that I have an order. In order, generally what happens, people purchase different items from a shop or a store or a restaurant. So now let's say that John Doe, I'm not sure my example is from, okay. Yeah, he went to electronic store, he purchased 2 items. And again, remember, we cannot have a column with comma, let's say laptop, comma, mouse, comma, keyboard. We cannot. It has to go to a separate table. So that means in this structure, I cannot insert there. That means it has to go a different table. So when I insert the products purchased in a different table, but I need to still say that these products were purchased for so-and-so order. So that is where this child table comes into picture. So this is a primary key, item ID. I say this product was purchased as a part of this order number 1. So order number 1 purchased, there were 2 items purchased in order number 1. And then, don't worry about table design and all, right? So just concentrate on how you can know what's the primary key, foreign key, what's the parent table, what's the child table, okay? What's the foreign table, right? So here item ID, order ID, product name. So I'm saying that this item was purchased for order 1, and this was purchased for order 2. So why I am calling this order ID as a foreign? Because this is a primary key in some other table. That's why I'm calling it as a foreign key, right? So that's how you can remember. Again, if you don't get the concept of primary key, foreign key for now, it's okay. Moving forward, you will learn it in your project, and I am also going to repeat this in chapter 8. Okay, now primary key, unique identifier, we keep on repeating. It cannot be null, right? And there can be only one primary key per table. This might be your interview question, okay? And the foreign key, it is link between tables, okay? A foreign key creates a relationship between 2 tables, linking one column to the primary key of other column, okay? You can have your own definition. You don't have to follow this definition. It maintains the integrity between 2 tables, ensure that the data, what does this means is like, let's say there's a new row 104, I cannot say 10 because this order ID 10 does not exist here, right? If I say 10, okay, I want to know when was this order placed by whom and all. If I go here, there is no 10. I will not know the customer name or order date. So that's how it maintains the data in the foreign key column to match a value in the primary key. And again, you can have null values in a foreign key, but not in a primary key. Okay, this is a pet interview question. See, if you define it as not null, you cannot have a null. But if you define it as a null, even though it has foreign key, you can have null values, any number of null values. You can have 100 null values on this table in a foreign key. Okay. And again, I can have multiple foreign keys on a table. Only one primary key, but I can have order ID or I can customer ID. I can have multiple foreign keys within a table. Nulls are allowed in a foreign key column. So let us look into other, as I told primary key. See, all this time we have been looking at primary key defined only on one column, but as I told, in your project you will be having a table where the primary key is defined on 2 columns. So here is a sample. So whenever a primary key has more than 1 column, it is called as composite primary key. It can be of 2 columns or 3 columns. So here it's like a student ID. He can enroll to any number of courses. Like let's say he enrolled to mechanics or a drafting class or a computer class in a university, right? So that's where we use this type of both are the student ID is a foreign key from student table, course ID is foreign key from course table, and these two are a part of the primary key in this table. So here you have a lot of mixture. So try to understand. If you can, even if you don't, that's okay, right? But you have to don't mix. When you say, okay, I'm talking about this table, what is the primary key? Primary key is uniquely identifying this. So okay, this is a primary key. Now keep the primary key aside. What are the foreign keys in this? Course ID because it's coming from course table. Student ID because it's coming from student ID. So remember, these 2 foreign keys are different. You cannot say that one foreign key for both for student course. No, there should be 1 foreign key for each column. Okay, but on primary key you can have combination of primary keys. See, the reason why I need a composite primary key here is because I don't want a duplicate. Let's say 101. I don't want such row again 101, right? If I say student ID is a primary key, that means I cannot have this 11101 102 because 1 will be allowed only once if I define the student ID as a primary key. But I want this student to take multiple courses. So how I do that? I add one more column into the primary key. So that way. Here what we have, this is an order table. Okay, so I'm inserting the orders here: order ID, customer ID, shipping ID, status ID. So you see this. I brought this example because I have 1, 2, 3 foreign keys here. This is from customer table, this is from shipping table, this is from order status table. This is order date is not a foreign. Okay, right? So you can here, this is how you define foreign key, customer ID referring to customer table, customer ID column. The shipping ID refers to shipping methods table from shipping ID. Status ID refers to order statuses of status. And this column name here, I am naming it as customer ID. It is also named as customer ID and primary key, but they can be different naming. I can say customer ID here. In customers table, I can just say ID. That's most of the people do that, but my preference or opinion is like the column name should be same across all the tables. It is very common for people to say that primary key instead of order ID, they just say ID. It's very common. Here I am saying item ID, they say ID. They say ID here and they say ID here. So how this ID is from orders table, so this is order ID. So that's why. But my preference is to name order ID and use it the same even in child tables. Okay, right. And then here what? See, this is the table, right? But you can join all the tables and get the data like this, because this customer data coming from customer table, shipping ID coming from shipping type table, and status coming from status table. So this is how the query will look like when you try to convert this table into this. So this is what's stored on your hard disk. This is just to display, to make some meaning out of these numbers. So don't worry, these queries we'll be writing in chapter 7. Okay, and that's where we end this lesson here. Again, I'm going to repeat foreign key, primary key in chapter 8. Hopefully, you'll be understanding it better there. For now, even if you understand 10%, 20%, 30%, that's good. If you are confused with composite key, leave it out for now. Okay. Actually, I didn't had this. If you look at my course, Tansy Academy course, I don't have primary key and foreign key as part of chapter 5. But one of the student asked me, you keep on using primary key, foreign key. What does it mean? So that's the reason why I added here. Okay.